The night air was colder than usual when Arham stepped out of his friend's house. It was almost midnight, and the quiet street looked even darker because the streetlights on one side had gone out. His breath made small clouds of white mist as he walked toward his car. He had spent the whole evening celebrating a friend's promotion, and while he hadn't done anything wild, he felt tired and slightly heavy-headed. He told himself he was fine to drive. He had done it many times before: long days, late nights, and quiet rides home. It never felt dangerous. It just felt normal. But that night carried something different, something he couldn't sense at first. The silence felt too deep, the wind too sharp, and the darkness thicker than usual. Even the sky seemed restless, with fast-moving clouds passing in front of the moon. Arham glanced at his phone once more before starting the engine. There were missed calls from his younger sister, Rita, asking him when he would be home. He smiled softly and whispered, "I'll be there soon." He meant it, and at that moment he believed it. When he drove out of the neighborhood, the roads were empty. The city was sleeping, and the only signs of life were a few dogs wandering near closed shops and a single motorcycle far ahead, moving like a shadow. Arham turned on the radio, but the static bothered him. He switched it off. The silence inside the car mixed with the faint hum of the engine and made his thoughts louder. He kept thinking about the celebration, the laughter, the music, and the long conversations. They had talked about their dreams, their families, and their plans for the future. Everything had felt bright and full of promise just a few hours ago. As he approached the highway, a cold breeze slipped into the car through a small gap in the window. He shivered slightly, but didn't bother closing it because the fresh air helped him stay alert. The highway was almost completely empty, which usually made him feel relaxed. But tonight, the emptiness made him uneasy. The darkness seemed endless, like the road was taking him into a tunnel with no end. He drove a little faster than usual. Not dangerously fast, just enough to get home sooner. He wanted to sleep in his own bed, talk to Rita for a few minutes, and then forget the long day. The streetlights along the highway were spaced far apart, and every few seconds the car dipped into deep shadows before coming back into the faint, yellowish glow of another light. Arham tightened his grip on the steering wheel. The pattern of shadows and light made it feel like the night was flickering. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen for a second. Another message from Rita. "Are you almost here?" "I'm waiting." That 1 second was enough for the car to drift slightly toward the edge of the lane. Arham quickly corrected it, breathing in sharply. "Focus," he whispered to himself. The wind grew stronger, pushing against the sides of the car. A sudden swirl of dust blasted across the road, making him squint. He wiped the windshield. Even though it was clean, his nerves were getting to him. The city lights behind him were fading, and ahead of him the road curved gently to the right, disappearing into a line of tall trees. He had driven this route countless times, but tonight the curve looked sharper than he remembered. He slowed down a little and kept his eyes fixed on the road. But the wind kept shaking the car, and the emptiness around him made his senses feel off balance. For a moment he wondered if he should stop somewhere, maybe pull over and rest for a minute. But there was nowhere safe to stop. Only darkness, trees, and the long stretch of highway ahead. The curve approached faster than he expected. He turned the steering wheel carefully, but at that exact moment, a strong gust of wind hit the car from the side. It wasn't gentle. It felt like someone had pushed the car suddenly. The tires lost their firm grip on the road. The car swayed. Arham's heartbeat spiked. He tried to steady it, turning the wheel slightly to correct the movement, but the road was slick, with an almost invisible layer of moisture from the late-night air. For a split second, the car floated in uncertainty, neither fully gripping the road nor fully sliding. Arham felt the steering wheel grow lighter in his hands, almost disconnected. Panic rose in his chest. He pressed the brake too quickly, a reflex, a mistake he instantly regretted. The wheels locked for a moment, and the car leaned dangerously toward the outer edge of the curve. Everything around him seemed to slow down. The world narrowed to the sound of his heartbeat, the shaking wheel, and the deafening rush of wind against the windows. "No, no, no, come on," he whispered, trying to regain control. But it was too late. The car slipped out of the lane. It moved sideways, gliding toward the edge of the road. Arham fought the wheel, pulling it back with all his strength, but the tires found no grip. The right side of the car dropped slightly as it reached the uneven ground off the highway. A loud jolt made his body tense. The vehicle jerked forward violently, bouncing and shaking as it rolled over rough terrain. His head hit the seatback. The seatbelt tightened across his chest. Everything outside turned into a whirl of darkness and broken flashes of trees and sky. The noise of metal scraping, the rumbling of earth, and the heavy thuds made the moment terrifying, but strangely quiet at the same time, as if his mind refused to process everything at once. The car came to a stop after sliding several meters into a patch of tall grass. The engine sputtered twice and died. A long, heavy silence followed. Arham sat still, breathing hard. His hands trembled uncontrollably as they remained locked around the steering wheel. For a moment, he didn't understand what had happened. His ears rang, and the world felt distant, like he was underwater. But slowly, painfully, reality settled in. He had lost control. He looked around. The windshield was cracked. The dashboard had shifted slightly. His heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear the whisper of the wind outside. He didn't feel any sharp pain, but his body ached in a deep, exhausting way. Every breath felt heavy but precious. He tried to move his arms, then his legs. Nothing felt broken, but his body trembled with shock. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting the fear drain from his mind drop by drop. When he opened them again, he felt tears on his cheeks, without remembering when they started. His phone lay on the passenger seat. The screen was cracked, but still glowing faintly with Rita's last message. He reached for it with shaking fingers and dialed her number. The call connected after a few rings. "Bye? Where are you? Why didn't you reply?" she asked, sounding worried but still unaware. Arham swallowed hard, his voice weak and shaky. "Rita, I'm fine. But I had an accident." Her breath caught. "What? Are you hurt? Tell me where you are. I'll call Mama. Should I call someone else?" "Oh my God. Rita, slow down," he whispered. "I'm okay, just shaken. I need help finding the exact spot. It's dark." "I'm near the highway curve past the old billboard." Rita was already moving. He could hear footsteps, voices, the panic spreading through the house. She kept talking, telling him to stay awake, telling him they were coming, telling him everything would be okay. Minutes passed slowly, painfully. The cold seeped into his bones. His head rested against the seat as he stared at the cracked windshield. He thought about how quickly things had changed. One moment he was driving home, thinking about warm blankets and sleep. The next moment he was sitting in the dark, waiting for help, grateful for the simple fact that he was still breathing. When he finally saw the headlights of his family's car approaching from a distance, he felt something inside him loosen. They stopped on the side of the road, ran toward him, calling his name again and again. His mother's voice cracked with fear, and Rita's face was pale with worry. They helped him out of the car carefully, guiding him step by step as he leaned on them for strength. Arham looked at the wrecked vehicle in the dim light. It wasn't completely destroyed, but it was damaged enough to show how badly things could have ended. He shivered as he realized how close he had come to something far worse. Later, at home, wrapped in a blanket and surrounded by his family, he replayed the whole night in his mind. He understood now how one moment of carelessness, 1 second of distraction, and one small mistake in a dangerous environment could change everything. He was luckier than he deserved. His family was safe, and he was alive, But luck wasn't something to rely on. The night he lost control taught him that every decision behind the wheel matters. Every second matters. He promised himself he would never underestimate the road again, no matter how empty, quiet, or familiar it seemed. And he kept that promise. Because sometimes life gives you a warning instead of a punishment. And if you ignore that warning, the next lesson could be one you don't walk away from. Moral: never underestimate the road, and never let distraction or tiredness guide your decisions. One moment of carelessness can change your entire life and the lives of those who love you.